It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Cruz.
Welcome aboard. We're starting things off with a mashup of elk news from the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, where we learn Missouri will be offering its second annual elk hunt this fall, and once again, 5 lucky hunters will get a chance to tag out on a bull. There will be a 9-day archery hunt running October 16th through the 24th, and then a 9-day firearms hunt running December 11th through the 19th. All permits will be assigned through a random drawing, and they're only available to hunters who reside in the Show Me State. Speaking of hunting seasons, Wisconsin's first wolf hunting season ended in a hurry this February after just 2.5 days. Wisconsin has at least 1,000 wolves roaming the landscape, and with management of wolves turned over to the state from the federal government, Wisconsin decided to thin out the packs here, going for a harvest quota of 200 animals. Well, effort and success were much higher than anticipated, and as mentioned, in less than 72 hours, 216 wolves were harvested. Wisconsin DNR will be doing a wolf count this month, and the plan now is to offer another hunt in November. Finally, good news out of Wyoming, where state wildlife officials opened up 2.6 million acres of land for hunting, as well as 4,005 lake acres and 87 stream miles for fishing on otherwise inaccessible private, state, and landlocked public lands. 46,500 acres were opened up with funding provided by the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, and the rest was provided by other money that went into the state's Access Yes programs, where donations from groups and individuals, as well as the sale of lifetime and annual conservation stamps, court-imposed restitution fees from individuals convicted of wildlife violations, and Access Yes account interest combined for $1.17 million last year. Wyoming Game and Fish officials use those funds to work with and in many cases pay private landowners to enroll them into one of the Game and Fish access programs. Put it all together, and it's a win for the landowners and for hunters and anglers too. A tip of the hat is definitely in order to Wyoming Game and Fish and the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation for the success of this program. Continuing with hunting, spring turkey hunting is opening up across much of America this month, and Henry Repeating Arms has just the thing for you this season. It's the single-shot 12-gauge turkey shotgun in camo, of course, and if you are a one-shot turkey hunting sniper, this is the firearm for you. Like all of Henry Repeating Arms firearms, this shotgun is made in America. It shoots straight and has a lifetime satisfaction guarantee. Look for a Henry Repeating Arms dealer near you at henryusa.com, and while you're online there at henryusa.com, don't forget to ask for your free catalog and decals while you're there. And if you have any questions, call the award-winning customer service staff. They'll be happy to help. It's the single-shot 12-gauge turkey shotgun, the best single-shot turkey shotgun you'll ever buy, only from Henry Repeating Arms. This week on America Outdoors Radio, we've got outdoor news about the state of sage grouse in the western United States, and the news, it's not good. We'll tell you about that later in the show. On a happier note, Andrew Wheeler with Abu Garcia shares the top 10 fisheries in the nation as judged by a panel of experts. It's all part of Abu Garcia's 100-year anniversary celebration, where fans sent in their favorite lakes and waterways, and a panel of expert anglers whittled it down to the top 100 fisheries in the nation. The top 10 are coming your way in just a few minutes. We'll also get to talk to Chris Dorsey in the hour ahead. He's been an outdoors media professional for quite a while, and in addition to being the past editor of Sports Afield magazine, he's hosted several outdoor television shows over the last couple of decades, and his production company is behind some well-known shows you'll see on TV that aren't fishing or hunting shows per se, but certainly have a strong tie-in to the outdoors lifestyle. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation. In addition to this, we've got another interview for you recorded at the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show in Portland a couple of weeks ago. This one is with Saffron Hodgson. She is a woman from Australia who is behind the website bushcooking.com, an outstanding resource for outdoors cooking. Saffron also puts together outdoor cooking competitions all over the United States. And if you want to up your outdoors cooking game, you'll want to hear more from Saffron, who, by the way, is also a big fan of Camp Chef, which are great friends of this show. Before we talk to Saffron, Chris, and Andrew, though, let's get back to a conversation we had last week. We've got Alex Langbell back. He's the man behind Gundog Outdoors, LLC. Last week, he told you about a great first aid kit you can carry in the field for your dogs. We were hoping to also talk about a quick-release safety system he has that will keep your gun dog from breaking and maybe getting in the way of some of that fire that's going down range if you've got a shotgun. Alex, it's great to have you back on the show.
Thank you again for having me, John. I appreciate it.
Why don't you tell our listeners about this quick-release safety system, how you developed this, it's a patented product, I understand, and how it works.
Our quick release system, I designed this one day after I'm sitting in the blind and I'm watching these dogs, and we have to tie down our dogs because they're competitive. And if anyone who's spent any time in a blind, they understand that not like every dog breaks. I don't care how well trained they are. You start putting another dog in a situation, they will tend to break. So I came up with this concept, and with us, the firefighters, we wear a pack and we go to get ready to fight a fire, and it's on our pack, and so we got to step out of the truck really quick. So the concept was the same concept where I could just pull a cord and I could release the pack, step out of the truck, or with this concept, it was to pull the cord and release the dog, and that way it could go when I wanted to go, and I don't have to worry about it running out, getting shot, or scaring birds and stuff like that. You can use it in any hunting scenario there is. I prototyped it for about a year to get all the kinks worked out, and I tell you what, I get numerous messages on social media and emails saying how it's completely changed their hunting and made it a lot easier, because no longer now do you have to worry about your dog breaking, and it's just a great training tool. I've got breeders throughout the country using this and giving it to their clients just to reinforce the training of the dog to keep them in the blind. And so it's just a great tool if it's used correctly.
Why don't you describe the product and exactly how it works?
Sure. So what it is basically a leash that I came up with, and it's not a typical leash. It's got double snap hooks on each ends. It's got D-rings throughout the leash to adjust the length of it. It actually keeps the dog's head in the blind when it's set up correctly, so there's no longer creeping out and scaring the birds. And then it's hooked up to a quick release shackle. It's very similar to a large sailing shackle, except I had it redesigned to where it's a lot smaller, and then I just got a cord to it, and all you got to do now is as soon as the bird's down and you're ready to send the dog, all it takes is 2 fingers to pull the cord. It slides the shackle, pulls the shackle, releases the pin, and then drops off the dog, and the dog can go on your command. And that's what's nice about it, because you have control of the dog now. You don't have to worry about that dog, again, breaking out, running out in front of gunfire, getting shot, going deaf. It's just a great safety tool. Again, that's my background, being in the fire service for 26 years, and my whole focus on everything in life is safety, and this was a big part of it.
How is this secured? So I understand it's a tether to the dog, and you release it as the hunter, but how is it actually secured so the dog isn't pulling on it and breaking away?
Sure. So it's designed to be secured in all sorts of situations. Come with a carabiner. You can hook it up and just snap it to the other end of the leash or one of the D-rings, depending on the length, to either an eye bolt like you would have in a blind or your boat. You can wrap it around a tree if you're hunting timber. Like I said, the leash that it's hooked up to snaps to itself. So it's just a very secure, and again, there's any hunting scenario that you can think of, it works. Even flooded corn.
I was going to say, I've got one for you. Okay. Wheat fields and corn.
Yep.
How does this work?
Absolutely. So corn, say flooded corn especially. So you take an elevated blind that's got a stand on it. It just basically clips right to the blind. It goes around, clips to the dog. The dog lays in that hut, and that actual weight of the dog is the anchor, so it can't pull itself out. It's just a really slick the way it works. And wheat fields, you can use ground anchors, like a screw-in anchor next to you, and just clip it right to that. Or we actually I did a frozen ground anchor, and what it is 2 titanium stakes, and the concept is the concept we use in the fire service for technical rescue. Basically, all it is 2 spikes that go on the ground with a tether in between, and you clip it right to that. And what's nice about the titanium is it's non-porous, so it's easy to pull out of a frozen ground. It goes in the frozen ground. It's not going to bend. Whereas if you're not going to get a steel screw-down anchor into a frozen ground, or if you do pound in an anchor, it can be kind of tough getting that out with the frozen ground.
I'll tell you what, folks, it's amazing what happens when you get a bird hunting guide and a dog owner and a firefighter. Get that mind working. You come up with some amazing things. That's what we've got here, the quick release safety system from Gun Dog Outdoors. It'll keep your gun dog from breaking. It'll keep your gun dog safe in the field. If you want to buy it, you can only do so online at gundogoutdoors.com. That's gundogoutdoors.com. And I'm quite certain you're going to be getting some orders after this interview. There's a lot of dog owners out there, myself included, interested in this. Thanks so much for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio, Alex.
Thank you again for having me, John.
Ready to step up to a quality-built rifle or shotgun that's a true classic? Check out Henry Repeating Arms, American-made. There's over 200 models to choose from in a variety of finishes and calibers for hunters and target shooters. Many of these are lever-action models with a look right out of the Old West. Don't be deceived, though. Henry Repeating Arms are modern, rugged, accurate, reliable, and have a lifetime guarantee. Find out more and order a free catalog today at henryusa.com. That's henryusa.com.
Backcountry Hunters and Anglers is the voice for your public lands, waters, and wildlife. From the Canadian Yukon to the Florida Everglades, we're stepping up to conserve North America's public lands, defend our hunting and fishing traditions, and expand public access to the outdoors. Our outdoor heritage depends on sportsmen and women like you speaking up for the natural resources that sustain our way of life. Find out how you can get involved at backcountryhunters.org and become a BHA member today.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. In case you didn't know, Abu Garcia, that rod and reel company that started out in Sweden a long time ago, they are celebrating their 100-year anniversary. And as part of the celebration, they asked fans from all over North America to contact them and let them know what their favorite fisheries were. Then they got a panel together of some of the top anglers and fishing industry experts in the nation and had that panel whittle that list down to the top 100 fisheries. And if you go to abugarcia.com, to the 100-year anniversary page, you can see the entire list. Today, we're going to talk about the top 10 list that was just released. And with us here to tell you more about it is Andrew Wheeler, the Director of Freshwater Durables at Abu Garcia, coming at us today from South Carolina. Andrew, it's great to have you on the air.
Yeah, thanks, John. Much appreciated.
So, Andrew, this was quite the process that the panel went through. It must have been kind of a tough task to have all these fisheries, and I'm sure there was some real lively arguments in the room as well about which one should be the top and which one shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a hotly contested kind of conversation no matter when you get anglers in any room, particularly when you're talking about, you know, the lakes in North America or the rivers in North America, mixed species, you know, anything from bass to walleye to muskie. It's always a hot topic, and, you know, even down to, you know, talking between friends, I think it always becomes like a hot discussion as what's the best fishery even in your local area.
I think you're absolutely right about that. So we're going to work our way down the top 10 today. Numbers 10 through number 6, they all have one species in mind in terms of the main reason you want to go to them, and that would be largemouth bass. Number 10 on the list for the 10th best fishery in North America, Lake Chickamauga in Tennessee, not far from Chattanooga, where we have an affiliate, WEMB. Number 9, Lake Fork, Texas, another very well-known largemouth bass destination. Both of these lakes fish very well in the spring. Clear Lake in California, known for giant largemouth bass and a perennial tournament favorite location. That is a great summer fishery for largemouth. And then we're back to Texas for number 7, and that would be Sam Rayburn Reservoir, which actually fishes really well in the late winter through early spring. Number 6 is a big favorite for all sorts of tournament series, Lake Gunnersville, Alabama. That's also well known as a great largemouth bass fishery. Now, let's head to number 5, Santee Cooper. That's known not just for largemouth bass, but for some other species too. I understand you fished this one before, Andrew.
Yeah, I have. Obviously Santee Cooper, really well known, particularly in the springtime, for just giant bags of largemouth bass, but really, really well known kind of a lot of the year as a trophy catfish lake. It's probably one of the best cat fisheries in the North American market at the moment. So it's a really good blue cat fishery.
Interesting. Speaking of catfish, we've got to talk about the number 4 best fishery in the nation, the Red River, flowing through North Dakota and Minnesota. And the highlight there, channel catfish. I was surprised to see this on the list, but catfish, this is getting a really big following throughout the United States, and it seems to be growing, doesn't it?
It does. Catfishing for us is, we've seen it just explode. It's obviously one of those fish that are available to everybody to fish for. They fight hard. They're around nearly everywhere in the country, and just super popular. We're also seeing a lot of anglers now getting really technical in the way they fish for catfish. It's becoming, particularly the guys who are really into it, as technique specific and as relying on electronics as you see in all of the bass fisheries as well.
Very interesting, because you're right. It is one of those fish that anybody can fish for them, and you tend to think of catfishing as the most simplistic fishing there is, with just, using a trot line or dropping some bait down, but very interesting to see this new trend. Number 3. I am not surprised to see this one in the top 3 at all. Lake Erie, which in my opinion is probably the top walleye fishery in the nation right now, and it's no slouch when it comes to smallmouth bass either.
Yeah, the next 3 are going to be interesting, but Lake Erie for sure, obviously big walleye. I think it's very, very well known for walleye. I think people who fish it, it's just one of those go-to spots for any keen walleye angler. And of course, I think you're seeing smallmouth bass become even more and more popular in a lot of these northern fisheries, especially, the size that the smallmouth are now getting to. They're getting up around, when you start to talk about 5, 6, and 7 pound smallmouth in any of these fisheries, you're talking about true trophy waters for sure.
Oh, absolutely. That brings us to number 2, and we're heading up to Michigan, Lake St. Clair, also known as a smallmouth bass fishery, but also known as a high-quality muskie fishery, too. And you have fished this one yourself, haven't you?
I have. I've done it for both smallmouth and muskie. Obviously, we've kind of talked on the smallmouth again. It's a great trophy smallmouth water, but it is also one of those go-to spots if you're really chasing like that trophy muskie. Lake St. Clair is a really, really, really cool spot to go fish. They've got some giants in there, and obviously muskies are one of those heartbreak fish where you see that there are a lot of big fish that you see a lot of follows every day, but when it's on, it can be the best muskie fishery in North America.
Oh, I can't wait to go there. All right, here we go, folks. Drum roll, please. The number 1 fishery in North America, as determined by the panel of judges for Abu Garcia, the St. Lawrence River in New York. This has become a huge favorite for the big bass tournament series to go to, and I was surprised to see that it's not just smallmouth bass here at the St. Lawrence, that this is another muskie fishery too. I was completely unaware of that angle in terms of this being a great muskie place.
Yeah, I think the St. Lawrence is just one of those good, again, mixed species fisheries. You've got walleye, you've got obviously smallmouth, you've got the muskie in there. It's just one of these go-to spots. Obviously, the last couple of years has been extremely well known. A lot of major bass tournaments have been run on the St. Lawrence River, and we've seen just giant fish come out of there and giant bags of fish come out of the St. Lawrence for smallmouth. So obviously, it's kind of becoming extremely well known as a premier smallmouth spot, but it does have great other, options there, particularly around muskie. It's kind of a little bit of a hidden gem, and even the walleye fishing there, as you see the bass guys catch them as bycatch, but if you're really targeting walleye, another go-to great spot for really targeting really high-quality walleye.
Well, folks, if you're looking for a road trip to fish some of the best fisheries in America, this top 10 list is probably a great roadmap for you. Again, catching everything from bass to catfish to muskie and a whole lot more. Oh, and don't forget those walleye. They are some very tasty fish. If you want to find out more, again, just go to abugarcia.com. That's the website, abugarcia.com. Go to their 100-year anniversary page and look for the top 100 list. And again, plan a maybe a week-long fishing trip, hitting 2 or 3 or 4 of these different fisheries in the top 100. Or, like I said, if you're after a bucket list fishing expedition, go ahead and plan to fish the top 10. You'll probably have a wonderful time doing so. Andrew, thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Hey, thanks for your time, John. Much appreciated.
Why book at Sportsman's Cove Lodge?
Why is Alaska like no other place on Earth? It hasn't changed in thousands of years.
From the way you get here on a float plane to the way you go out with the guides and the boats, it's just a professional experience.
And I said, this is as good as it gets. I said, if you can't catch fish here, you can't catch fish anywhere.
Your experience with us will leave you speechless.
Book now at alaskasbestlodge.com.
The Dalles in Oregon is your base camp for fishing fun. Reel in big salmon, tangle with steelhead, bass, and walleye, or wrestle a monster sturgeon to the boat. After the day is done, you'll find a variety of lodging options around town. Need to resupply? We've got you covered with sporting goods stores plus great dining, breweries, wineries, and can't-miss attractions like the Gorge Discovery Center. Plan your fishing getaway today at explorethedalles.com. That's explorethedalles.com.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We've got a very special guest on the line. His name is Chris Dorsey, and you might be thinking to yourself, I know that name. Well, that's because he's the former editor of Sports Afield magazine. He is a well-known television host who's hosted several outdoors television shows over the last 20 years. He also has a production company and produces all sorts of shows that are kind of about the outdoors we're going to talk about too. Chris, it is great to have you on the air.
John, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself in terms of how you got into the outdoors media field and how you went from being a television show host to producing some very popular shows in recent years.
Yeah, I sort of describe myself as a recovering magazine editor. I came into the outdoor industry as a print guy, working as a feature editor at Hunting Magazine in Los Angeles with Craig Boddington, and then went out east and worked at Game and Fish magazines with David Morris out there, who later became one of our TV hosts with Bucks of Tecomate series, which is, I think, still on the air, been around for a long time. And then, founded our own company about 20 years ago. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary and have been in Denver for most of that 20 years, based out of here. And I think we've done now 56 series in the outdoor adventure space alone, and about another 50 series in sort of mainstream cable programming. But kind of the DNA of the company, John, has always been the outdoors and the gritty sort of male-skewing lifestyle programming. That's been kind of the hallmark of what we've done for Discovery, History, of course, the Outdoor Networks, National Geographic, et cetera. So, yeah, it's been a good run. We've done a lot of programming over the years and have had a great run.
What are some of the shows you hosted, and what are some of the shows you're producing now that aren't necessarily centered on fishing and hunting, but tie in with the outdoors?
Yeah, and that's a great question. We really started, when I started the TV show around Sports Afield magazine, it was like, how do we make this brand electric and sort of take it into the era of branded entertainment? And that was, that goes back almost 25 years ago, a long time ago. Really at the genesis when so many of these outdoor shows were coming online, helping brands kind of take their message through television, through, video and digital distribution and things like that. So it wasn't just print anymore or radio. It was how do we create stories and shows around these brands. So I started actually hosting when I was editing Sports Afield magazine, started hosting Sports Afield on Assignment television. And that was kind of the genesis of really where I began sort of crossing into the hosting side of it. But from there, we ended up hosting the Benelli's American Safari series, Beretta, World of Beretta television, Beretta's Bird Hunters Journal, did several Dangerous Game episodes. We hosted Ultimate Sportsman's Lodge for Great American Country and DIY Networks, and Ram Outdoorsman ran for 8 or 9 years now, and that's sort of morphed into what I'm doing right now, which is Sporting Classics Television. And that's really kind of a continuation of the Ram Outdoorsman series on Outdoor Channel. Airs in the third and fourth quarter 5 times a week, and been around for a long time. So yeah, it's been a lot of miles. We put on a lot of miles filming all over the world, and it's a big adventure show. We film throughout Africa, South America, South Pacific, as well as, of course, North America, lots of Alaska and the northwest part of the United States. I used to be a landowner in Montana, spent a lot of time up there, love the state, and done a lot of hunting and fishing up there. I have a place in South Carolina as well, so I spent a lot of time in the low country, and we do some filming down there as well as Colorado home base.
Chris, you are a blessed man. Let's talk about some of the other TV shows, though, that you have, like I said, that aren't necessarily, these aren't ones you host, they're ones you produce, and they're not necessarily, hunting or fishing based. So like Maine Cabin Masters is an example where you talk about building cabins in Maine, but you really tie in nature and the outdoors with that, don't you?
We do, and actually that show came to be initially through History Channel. They said, look, we're looking at trying to create our own kind of build wild construction, building off the grid kind of deal, and so we cast up in Alaska, and we found a couple up there, a couple of guys that were building and really kind of rehabbing old cabins there, and then we found what became the Maine Cabin Masters in Maine, and such a great group, and History decided not to go forward with any kind of a build show, really. And then we said, well, why don't we take it to Discovery and DIY, rather. Actually, it was before DIY became part of Discovery. And DIY was like, yeah, we're all over this. We love that space. These guys are fantastic characters. And that show's been a huge hit. I mean, it's got a really massive following now. It's on Discovery as well as DIY Network. It'll probably move to Magnolia, which is the new Discovery series, or network, I should say, that Chip and Joanna Gaines are a part of starting. And, that's one of our shows that, again, it's that outdoor lifestyle. People can look at a cabin on a lake and go, man, I could see myself living there. I could see myself, fishing every day, just being off the grid, just being away and enjoying, particularly in these days, where social distancing is now the norm. Why not just social distance in a really beautiful cabin on a lake in Maine, so it's that dreamy sort of escape. But our Building Alaska series, which now has run for 12 years, really was one of our first forays into non-traditional outdoor programming, but it came because I was bear hunting on Kodiak Island, and my guide up there said, look, I'm going to tear down this cabin, and I'm going to build a new cabin there. I said, well, how are you going to tear it down? He said, I'm going to wrap this giant cable around it, hook it up to my fishing trawler, and I'm going to drag it down to the beach, and we're going to burn it.
Oh my gosh!
I said, okay, well, we got to film that, and so I did, and made some notes, shipped it off to DIY and HGTV, and the guys went gaga over it. They just thought it was the greatest thing ever, coolest thing ever. So then that launched into, again, 12 seasons of these people building in remote wild Alaska, where Alaska is a character, and it's just this really engaging struggle between Mother Nature and these builders, and they're taking supplies over snow machine, over frozen lakes through the dead of winter to get these things, the products, the wood, the building materials into the place where they want to build this incredibly remote off-the-grid cabin. And we use helicopters and boats and float planes and all that kind of stuff. So it's become this really escapist, yet when you watch the show, you go, man, wouldn't it be so great to have a really cool little cabin in the middle of nowhere in Alaska and have a moose walk through the front yard, catch salmon, in the stream outside the back door. All that kind of stuff is just this dreamy fun. But building off the grid is another one we do for Discovery, and that's the same basic premise of people just getting out and building their wild, remote dream destination. And so, yeah, it's kind of all these things play into this outdoor lifestyle, and people that build these cabins very often do it because they like to hunt and fish and trap and cross-country ski as well as snowshoe, and all that kind of stuff comes into play. So it's, this is where people go to really get away and get centered in the universe again, and it's kind of fun to see that motivation manifest into this dream cabin that they've always wanted, and lots of big emotion and tears happen when that thing is finally built and the family comes together. So yeah, it's a fun show, and people love it, and that's why it's successful.
We've only got about a minute left, Chris, but I've got to ask, what's new for 2021? I understand you've got your first IMAX film coming out, and you've got a new book coming out too.
Yeah, we do. We've got a new IMAX film. It's on bird migration of the prairie pothole region that most people don't know anything about, but that produces about 60-70% of the water birds in North America come out of this area in western Canada, North and South Dakota, a little bit of Minnesota. But it's a great story. Michael Keaton just did the voice work on it. It'll be in theaters at the end of this year, and we've got a great new book coming out on wing shooting around the world. Tom Brokaw just did the foreword for me, a companion film set. So every one of the chapters that are focused on different parts of the world and the wing shooting there is matched with a film from that same hunt. So it's a unique package, and that's from Sporting Classics magazine. So yeah, we got a lot going on.
Really quick, the name of the film and the name of the book.
The name of the film is Wings Over Water 3D, and the name of the book is Call Time.
All right. Look for both at bookstores and at theaters near you. Chris Dorsey, folks, a very talented man who's been entertaining us for a long time and will continue to do so in 2021 and beyond. Find out more about what's going on in his world at DorseyTV.com. That's DorseyTV.com. Chris, thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
John, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
We've been telling you about Sportsman's Cove Lodge in Southeast Alaska for a while now, and there's a reason. They are the only Alaska lodge we talk about in this show. It's because they're truly Alaska's best lodge. The adventure starts with a float plane ride from Ketchikan, after which you'll get the chance to experience some of the best hospitality, food, and wonderful people you'll ever meet. Wildlife is abundant, from bears and deer to eagles and whales, and let's not forget the reason you're here, the fishing. Halibut, salmon, lingcod, rockfish, true cod, and more. It's all waiting for you in abundance at Sportsman's Cove Lodge. Book your trip today at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
Hunting and fishing are exercises in hope. Before you head into the woods, you hope to tag out on a deer you'll have to field dress. Before you make that first cast, you hope for a big fish to clean and fillet. When your hopes are realized, you'll need a sharp knife. Whether you sharpen that blade on a power sharpener in the shop or a manual sharpener in the field, WorkSharp has the tool for you. Look for WorkSharp products in sporting goods stores near you or online at WorkSharpTools.com.
Campers, adventure seekers, hunters, and foodies. No matter the lifestyle, we can all agree on one thing. Great food and great people are worth remembering. At Camp Chef, we don't just make grills. We create each product knowing that a warm meal is always better when it's shared with those we love. Learn more about Camp Chef grills, smokers, and portable cooking equipment at campchef.com. That's campchef.com for a better way to cook outdoors.
The election is over, and this is not another political ad. But with a change in president, there is uncertainty. Uncertainty in the market. Will it be up or will it be down? Uncertainty on how the new administration will handle taxes for your retirement. A new report states that the Biden administration may take away key tax benefits to traditional retirement plans. But what if there was a better way? A way to save for retirement tax-free? We can help business owners, freelancers, and regular working folks get on track with their retirement without risk and without taxes. For more information, get your no-cost, tax-free retirement income strategy guide now by calling 888-585-1615. That's 888-585-1615. Find out how sound investment principles can give you a retirement where you eliminate the spend down of your savings and create more income for your retirement tax-free. Call today and get the free guide. 888-585-1615. That's 888-585-1615. Call now. 888-585-1615.
Looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook, because we've got it right here. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer an affordable platform to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting host John Cruz through his website at AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. But hurry, if you wait too long, this big opportunity might just get away. That's AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We continue to bring you audio from the Pacific Northwest Sportsman Show in Portland, Oregon. And we ran across somebody I'm really excited for you to meet. Her name is Saffron Hodgson. She comes from the land down under. She is the woman behind bushcooking.com. And if you are interested in outdoors cooking, she can help you out. Saffron, welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here today.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and about bushcooking.com?
So my name's Saffron, as you mentioned, from Australia, and I've always loved outdoor cooking. When I came to America, I started bushcooking.com, which is a website only about cooking outdoors, whether you're smoking, grilling, on a picnic, camping over a campfire and Dutch ovens, and started pulling that all together because there hasn't been a really good resource for that. I reached out to people who know a lot more about me, so we're currently up to about 40 different contributors across America, Australia, and Canada, all bringing the outdoor recipes to one spot, making it easy for people to find new recipes.
Well, bushcooking.com certainly sounds like a great resource. I noticed from your booth here that you are a big fan of Camp Chef products, and something you've got here is a flat top grill. You were telling me a story before we went on the air that I think is really funny, and it's all about the differences between backyard grilling in America versus Australia.
Yeah, it's interesting because in Australia, when we grill, we've always grilled on a flat surface. So when I came to America and I went to buy a grill, I'm like, wow, what's going on here? Are they all out? And it turned out that everyone here used a grill grate, and it didn't make any sense to me at all because everything I'm used to cooking on grills falls through. So I bought my first grill and I had to go to a metal fabrication shop, and I'm trying to explain to them that I want them to make a flat top grill for me. And they got so confused. I ended up getting it for free because they were just so amazed at the novelty of this.
Well, fortunately, Camp Chef has come to the rescue. They've got flat top grills for everyone. You use yours all the time. What do you cook on it?
I pretty much cook anything on it. If you think of like a skillet at home, how you're constrained by that small amount. So if you think of like a standard bacon and egg breakfast, now you can add the sausages and the fried bread and all of those other things and cook for your whole family on one surface. So it's sort of like taking that to the next level. So I do everything. I do fried rices on it. You can do your whole burgers on it. So now my burgers are not just like a burger patty. I've got that, but I've also got the bacon, and you can do the fried eggs, another Australian thing. And you can build like much bigger meals out of that surface.
You literally are describing my favorite burger. It involves bacon, it involves fried eggs. I must have some Australian in me. I know I do, as a matter of fact, so it must be showing. Let's talk about the other thing you do. You actually go all around the country. You go to sportsman shows, you go to fairs, and you host outdoor cooking competitions. Where have you been recently in this time of COVID?
So we've had to do a completely different spin on it with COVID. But luckily, the Sportsman Show did their event in Redmond, Oregon. So we were there. Unfortunately, it wasn't as big as normal. We had a stack of Pacific Northwest competitors, some that actually qualified at the Sportsman Show last year, competing at the World Steak Championship in Texas.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a big hobby. Like, people think of outdoor sports. They don't necessarily think of outdoor cooking as a sport. But we were lucky enough to do a Dutch oven competition there. We had some amazing competitors come in from Montana, Texas, Washington, and Oregon for that one.
We've got some listeners from Texas tuning in today, and I guarantee you, Texans are saying, we know how to do outdoors cooking the best. I bet we won. Was it somebody from Texas or not?
Unfortunately not in this case.
So who won the Dutch oven cooking competition and what did they cook?
So it was Kathy. She's actually from Washington. She's been doing competitive cooking for a long time. So even though you're a great cook, there are a couple of tricks to winning competitions. Her main was actually a shrimp pasta, which was incredible. Let's just say there was none left of that to share around. She did a standard biscuits, and it's always a bread, a main, and a dessert. And I can't even remember her dessert because we ate it because it was so amazing. But, we had a lot of different competitors. Because it was such a short day, we added some extra rules to it. So it was like, we called it the Iron Man competition. It was a single person cook. That's quite different to normal.
Okay.
So that was really cool. And it was one Dutch oven to be used only for each entry, which sounds sort of logical. But normally when they're doing these competitions, they can be using 3-4 different Dutch ovens, making multiple cakes, layering them up for a dessert.
Oh, wow.
If it wasn't hard enough already, we made it a little bit harder.
What is your favorite Dutch oven dessert to cook, and how do you go about cooking it?
I'd love to say it was something super fancy, but I've fallen in love with the American Boy Scouts dump cakes.
Absolutely.
So just the cherry base, the basic chocolate cake on top, a can of Sprite, and then extra chocolate chips. And, it's a great one because it always tastes great, but it's something that my friends can go away and cook as well, which then builds them confidence to start trying more difficult dishes in the future.
Why do you use Camp Chef products when it comes to Dutch oven cooking?
Camp Chef's been around in America for a long time. So when I got here, it was literally the first brand that everyone recommended to me. And I've been using them ever since. I mean, their gas stoves in particular, you can always get good heat. I've never had any problems with them. And when you're in the outdoors, if you're going to take all that gear out there, you need to make sure what you've got's pretty reliable. And there's a lot of brands out there, but some of them are like, great, put them on your patio, set and forget. But when you're traveling as much as me, you want something that's designed to take outdoors, take camping, pack up, unpack. They've got a good range of cases, and they think about that in their design. Like, how do these people take it outdoors with them?
Well said. I'm sure somebody at Camp Chef is probably smiling listening to this right now. In the meantime, we're going to wind things up by directing people back to your website, Saffron. That is bushcooking.com. If you want to learn to be a better cook in the outdoors, this is the website for you. Again, bushcooking.com. All sorts of information, all sorts of recipes, and all sorts of ways for you to have a delicious meal made in the great outdoors. Saffron, thanks so much for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you so much. Happy cooking, everyone.
Well, if you're going to be preparing all of this good food, I know one thing you're going to need is some sharp cutlery, and that's where our friends from WorkSharp come in. They make fantastic knife and tool sharpeners, and they especially make several knife sharpeners that are perfect for the kitchen if you're doing indoors cooking, and other ones that are great for the field if you're doing outdoors cooking and don't have access to electricity. You can check out the whole lineup at WorkSharpTools.com and look for WorkSharp knife and tool sharpeners all over North America in quality sporting goods, hardware, and department stores too. If you can't find them right away though, shop online anytime at WorkSharpTools.com. In other food-related news, we can announce that Claudia Hunter from Roseburg, Oregon is the Stowaway Gourmet giveaway winner from that giveaway of freeze-dried food we did last week. Claudia is a longtime listener to our show on the very first station to pick up this program, KPNW AM 1120 out of Eugene, the home of the University of Oregon Ducks. Congrats, Claudia, and enjoy those delicious freeze-dried meals from Stowaway Gourmet. Turning to news about the sage grouse, that big upland game bird of the western plains and sage, they are in some serious trouble. The Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership shares a report from the U.S. Geological Survey that shows an overall 80% decline in sage grouse populations in the western United States since 1965, with an average annual rate of loss estimated at 3%, a full percentage point higher than in previously available data prepared for the Western Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. Whit Fosberg, the president and CEO of TRCP, says the fact that sage grouse populations are trending even further in the wrong direction should be taken very seriously by hunters, conservationists, wildlife managers, and all citizens of the American West. There is no question that this deeper range wide loss of birds is indicative of the continued loss and degradation of habitat, and stakeholders at every level need to regroup fast to determine a path forward that creates lasting conservation impacts for these iconic game birds. In a separate report released on March 9th, the U.S. Geological Survey found that sagebrush habitat is being lost at an alarming rate due to mining and energy development, conversion to cropland, invasive grasses, and altered wildlife cycles. Since the year 2000, more than 20% of priority sage-grouse habitat within the Great Basin alone has burned. Again, not very good news at all, and the bottom line is this. The sage-grouse was not listed as an endangered species in 2015 when the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service reviewed their populations, but this study is a clear alarm bell sounding off that if things don't turn around in a hurry, the sage-grouse may find itself listed as an endangered species, a listing nobody in their right mind wants to see happen. Time does fly on this show, and once again we find ourselves out of time. So, as I bid you farewell for another week, I will tell you this. I do hope you are blessed in the days ahead, and I also hope you're able to find some time to get into nature in the days ahead too. Whether you're heading out in an effort to bag a gobbler, picking up a bass rod like I am this morning, casting a fly into a stream for trout, or maybe just going on a nice long hike into the wilderness, it's all good, and trust me, you'll be glad you did it. Until next time, do remember this. It is your country and you're outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.